Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07 on a Monday. Thanks for starting your day and your week with us here on O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 6:35, Alfredo Ortiz of Job Creators Network. Talk about this mini brouhaha over the weekend over the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics commissioner being relieved of her duties. You know, how many times do you have to get numbers wrong and revise numbers drastically before somebody says, hey, you've got one job to get the numbers right? 7:05, Joe DeGenevo will join us. 7:35, the governor of West Virginia, Patrick Morrisey. And then at 8:05, General Jack Keane. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Happy Monday to you, Julie.
Good morning.
Is there such a thing as a meunier? It sounds like a French pastry of some kind.
Definitely not.
Or with mangoes, perhaps. Mondays are always kind of... Yeah, I know. It's easy to get excited on a Friday. We have the heavy task to actually lift people's spirits on a Monday. All right, go ahead, Julie. Make everyone feel good.
Give me about 15 minutes. Need to warm up a little.
I know what will warm you up. Two things, which we will get to. One of them we'll get to a little later, which is the superintendent of schools for Fairfax demanding a personal bodyguard.
Oh, she has got a lot of nerve, that one.
The nerve.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is the meltdown that you're witnessing over the shutting down of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which is the case. Corporation for Public Broadcasting announced that they were going to be shutting its doors. I understand something. This is the corporation that was set up. They had about 100 employees. It was set up in 1967 when Congress approved funding a public broadcasting system, and this was the private corporation that was basically acting as the go-between between the federal government's grants and money, this last year over $1 billion, and then the distribution of them. All they did was pass the money from the government to the NPR, PBS, and in some cases some of the smaller outlets and stations. That's all they did. And this doesn't mean PBS is shutting down. It doesn't mean NPR is shutting down. PBS and NPR could go on further. Remember, they constantly remind us that they only get 10% of their funding or 15% of their funding from the federal government. And now that the federal government isn't funding PBS and NPR, there's no reason for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. But the meltdown, the absolute destruction that I'm sure you're seeing, I saw you share one of them on your social media page. It's ridiculous over two things. First of all, get on with it. If you love PBS, then reach into your pocket and you can pay for some money to keep PBS. But secondly, it's out of ignorance because they think that the announcement that the Corporation for Public Broadcast is shutting down means that PBS itself is shutting down, which it's not. So they're getting crazy over being ignorant and not understanding exactly what's going on.
Frankly, I feel the same amount of rage that they do, but just in the opposite way. Why isn't it shutting down? Why isn't it totally going away? But yeah, the meltdown is remarkable. And you mentioned open up your, pocketbook and give money yourself. But my favorite is when really wealthy people object, right? People who clearly can give. They could probably save it. They could probably write one check and save it. But they don't. And they love that the taxpayers are on the hook for this. So, yeah, the meltdown has been pretty astonishing to watch.
Can I read the comment that you saw on your Facebook? All right. So, and we don't know who wrote this. Well, you do. But and you had said on social media, you said having liberal friends on Facebook is really useful when trying to understand how insane the leftists are. And that's true. I go to my Facebook, which is just filled with people from California or from the entertainment business, and it's amazing, what they're going through, the therapy session.
This level of you're about to read it, but this level of crisis that they're experiencing should be reserved for. I'm not kidding you. Like the death of a family member. This is even a little overwrought for most things in life. This is overwrought. And they are talking about the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which again, not PBS itself, not NPR itself, but again, this sort of umbrella organization shutting down. And you literally would think that these people just lost a very close member of their family.
We should have done a little quiz. I should have read this and then had people guess what
is
they
the
think
issue?
this is a reaction to. Yes.
Yes.
Is this a reaction to the death in the family, or?
I mean,
or
I
some
look at
sort
the
of
things
civil
that
war?
were, my friend Megan Mobbs at Independent Women's Forum, she was talking about some of the conditions in Russia-controlled Ukraine and some of the horrors that are going on, and they're by the Russian forces, right? I think about that mother who saw her son starving in a Gaza tunnel. I think about all the serious, as Larry's reading this, I want you to think about all these really incredibly sad things. People I know have lost loved ones in the last week. I mean, the pain that they might be experiencing. And then so think of these horrible situations around the world as Larry's reading this.
Here's Julie's liberal friend reacting to a Facebook post announcing the end of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Oh my God. I feel as if the ground is opening beneath my feet and I am falling into the abyss. This marks the end of the world as I have known it. A bright light is being extinguished by a bunch of spineless, vulgar, depraved individuals and groups, and with it so much of what was best about us. Words fail me, as they often do with the death of something or someone so central to my world.
We need a song, like Wings Beneath My Wings, or like, we needed a song, Michael. I'm kidding,
right.
Michael.
Wait, we have a song. Actually, we have a
we
song
have
that goes with this from our perspective. Absolutely. Let's bring it on. Yes! Bye-bye,
There
Corporation for
you go.
Public Broadcasting.
Oh my God. I feel as if the ground is opening beneath my feet. And I am falling into the abyss. We can go on.
It's the end of the world as I've known it.
A bright light is being extinguished by a bunch of spineless, vulgar, depraved individuals. That's right, Larry. That's you and me.
More champagne.
Woo!
Honestly, but this is when you get this overwrought, and when you weave yourself into an emotional connection and decide that anything that your political adversaries or opponents may do is literally the end of the world, which, as this person, I'm guessing it's a woman or a very emotional man. Yeah.
It's a woman.
I mean, and I'm sure we haven't outed anybody because she's probably not listening to this program.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I wouldn't worry about it.
Well, it
and
is
who
the end of
cares?
the It is the
I'll
end of
take
the
the heat.
corporation. Who cares if she cares? What's she going to do? Unfriend me? Well, it would mess with our show content, but there you go. It's like what they call it, a Rashomon test or a
Rorschach
inkblot thing. Yeah, Rorschach test, where two different people can look at the same thing and come up with a very different outcome. And we find the trimming of $1 billion for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the end of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, although obviously a personal tragedy for many people in our lives, ends up actually being a rather divine result of hopefully some government efficiency and some reprioritization of where we spend our hard-earned money. It's 5:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
And the good news keeps coming. You remember the story of Stephanie Turner. I think you at Independent Women's Forum, as you always do, reached out to Stephanie Turner when she made headlines. This was a woman who was on a fencing team, and she was supposed to square off against a transgender fencer, a man who was representing as a woman, and she took a knee instead and forfeited the match to stand her ground and, by the way, to protect her own safety. And, of course, the fencing body, the international body or national body that oversees fencing, had allowed men to compete against women. Now we've had a huge development in that story. Wagner College, where this transgender fencer competed, has now issued apologies to all of the female athletes who were involved in this match.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Her protest was so, powerful. It was this very quiet protest of taking a knee and saying, which is, I'm sure in fencing, the way you sort of say, hold on, I need to speak to the judge, or I need a moment. And then just, announcing she wouldn't, she didn't yell, she didn't hold up a sign, she didn't do anything but quietly say, this is not fair. And also, this is potentially dangerous, and I am not going to compete in this under these circumstances. So just a beautiful way of doing it. And I have to tell you, Larry, I think so many of the women who have been put in these situations, we've worked so hard to walk this back and to make people realize that we need to return to common sense. And some of it has occurred. We've seen some movement for the good. And a lot of that is due to these female athletes and President Trump, right? But what we rarely see are the apologies for what these women have lost. And I've talked about that with the school closures and like the masking, stuff like that. Like, where's the apologies, right? This means a lot to women who've been dealing with this apology and a recognition that they were wrong. It's one of these things that kind of conveys, I won't do it again. Yeah. And it's really important.
The administration's executive orders that threatened the funding of these organizations and these institutions, if they didn't reverse their policies, obviously became a major stick in the carrot and stick game of trying to get an organization or an entity to change its policies. And I have no doubt that at some point during these negotiations, everything seemed to be settled. And then the Trump administration said, oh, one more thing. You need to apologize. You need to apologize. You need to acknowledge that what you did was wrong and apologize to the women who were affected by it. The USA Fencing, by the way, 10 days ago changed their policy across the board on this, but it was this last step for Wagner College to apologize that made the difference. We had Stephanie Turner on this program when this protest first took place, and here she is yesterday on Fox and Friends reacting to the apology.
I'm just glad that this is happening quickly and swiftly under the Trump administration. This has been a long time coming. I mean, several years of back and forth, and just to have these universities have their feet held to the fire enough where we can make change in such a short period of time. I'm just very grateful.
She's got class act all the way. And I remember, when you look into fencing, this is a medieval sport. This goes back, to the Renaissance and before, and it's all the customs and all of the manners of fencing is based on honor and dignity and respect. And she handled herself with such poise during this entire episode, and it's great to see this outcome.
Yeah, it is great to see, but it is important to look at the biology here, and that this isn't just about fair. Well, it is about fairness, but it isn't just like, okay, let's recognize that men and women are different. That is important. Think about how much longer men's legs are, their torsos are. Think about the reach. And we did a sports report at IWF where we actually put this data in one booklet and said, men have this much more reach, right? Or, they can jump this much higher. Their lung capacity is, right? All of these things matter so much in sports and competition. And so, especially when you think of fencing, my goodness, that reach, that ability, either your legs or your arms reaching your opponent, what an enormous disadvantage women would be at if this were normalized and if men were allowed to compete against women. So, yes, great to see it. But I just want to mention that, this wasn't just, I'm uncomfortable with men, which is a perfectly fine reason as well. But this really does put women at a serious disadvantage in competition.
It's also important to shoot this through the lens of politics, because it was politicians who ended up either allowing this to happen or stopping it from happening. It was under the Biden administration where Title IX was rewritten, and they attempted to force this down the throats of every school across the land. And it was Title IX and the reinterpretation of Title IX, the proper interpretation of Title IX under the Trump administration, that reversed this policy and made it happen. But also, let's not let this get memory hold. Let's not move forward with this victory and have everybody walk away thinking that, mistakes were made. No. The woman who wants to be governor of Virginia had an opportunity to vote as a congresswoman for this. There was an equality. What was the name of the bill that was put forth? I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember, but I know.
There was a bill put forth in Congress writing all of this and correcting all of it. And Abigail Spanberger, when she had the chance, voted no. She voted to keep boys in the locker room. She voted to keep boys competing against girls. That's where she stands. That's her idea and her understanding and her values and her principles. Now she wants to be your governor.
Well said, Larry. That is a serious issue before Virginia voters, among many, many things. But she really has been very quiet on this issue. She's skirting it. Thank God for some media that's asking good and tough questions. But Spanberger has got to make a statement on this.
And the media should probably ask her something about it.
Yeah.
It's 5:23.
Coming up, we'll give you an update on Russiagate and the FBI. FBI Director Kash Patel, he's speaking out on some of these newly declassified Russiagate documents. Keep it here. It's 5:30.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
5:37 as our morning continues to roll forward. Coming up at 6:35, Alfredo Ortiz, Job Creators Network. 7:05, Joe DeGenova. 7:35, the Governor of West Virginia, Patrick Morrissey. And at 8:05, General Jack Keane. It's Larry O'Connor. Alongside, hey, that's Julie Gunlock. I know you.
Good morning.
Julie. I've been waiting for this, and I got it over the weekend on Saturday afternoon. FBI Director Kash Patel made a statement about the declassification of all of the documents that we've seen from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence over the past 10 days. You'll remember that Kash Patel, before he was the FBI Director, during the first Trump administration, he was the lead investigator for Devin Nunes, who then was the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. It was during that time when we got the intelligence community assessment on the 2016 presidential election that claimed that Russia had successfully interfered in the election with their hacks and that they did it because they wanted Trump to win and they were trying to damage Hillary Clinton. We've learned now over the last several days that that was a tenuous assessment, to say the least. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible with my commentary here to try to be straight down the middle, as you would expect. But let's just say that the evidence from the intelligence community did not support the conclusion that the assessment drew. There is no evidence that Russia successfully interfered with the election. In fact, everyone will point to the hack of the DNC servers as an obvious attack on the Democrats and Hillary Clinton to help Trump. Number one, you realize, of course, that the FBI never actually got to investigate the DNC servers. There is no government investigative entity that has reached the independent conclusion that the DNC servers were hacked. I'm not saying they weren't. I'm just saying the FBI and the intelligence community does not have that evidence. There was a third-party private organization called CrowdStrike. See, the DNC was hacked, and they didn't call the FBI. They called CrowdStrike to come in and assess the damage before the FBI was brought in. And CrowdStrike and the DNC did not hand over the servers to the FBI for independent forensic investigation. People forget that.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And again, Russia may have hacked the DNC. By the way, don't leave out the fact that we know for a fact that Russia tried to hack the RNC servers, too. Republicans had better security and better firewalls, and they prevented the hack from happening. But if the Russians were only interested in helping Trump and hurting Hillary, why were they hacking the Republicans as well?
Right.
Just ask yourself that. But then secondly, there's literally no evidence to back up the claim that Russia preferred Trump over Hillary. There is evidence to show that Russia just wanted to screw with us and sow doubt and create division. And they certainly succeeded in that.
this idea that, like, of course the Russians are trying to meddle in our elections. Of course the Chinese are trying to meddle in our elections. And frankly, we probably do it too. I think we do it. So this idea of that being sort of shocking to people, what?
Right.
Like,
and that's the evidence that they point to.
Read some Graham Greene, okay? Like, this is not
or some Tom Clancy, or
right.
some Vince
right.
Flynn, or so. It was Kash Patel who worked with Devin Nunes back in 2017 to uncover the truth, to uncover the fact that the FBI currently had an investigation into the Trump presidency, not just the Trump campaign, that they had pulled FISA warrants on innocent Americans claiming that they were Russian assets, like Carter Page, and proving that the basis for all of these allegations was not hard evidence and not real intelligence, but the Steele dossier, which was a piece of campaign propaganda opposition research bought and paid for by the Clinton campaign and the DNC, and Obama and Brennan and Clapper and Comey knew all about it in the summer of 2016. So Kash Patel was the lead investigator uncovering all of those facts, and it's taken now, well, almost 10 years for these documents finally to be declassified. So here's the FBI director's statement on Saturday. In 2017-2018, I proved the Steele dossier was fictitious intelligence weaponized by corrupt FBI officials to deceive a federal judge and unlawfully spy on then-presidential candidate Trump's campaign, all paid for by his opponent. The media called me a liar. Now I'm the FBI director. We just uncovered burned bags in a room filled with hidden Russiagate files, including the Durham Annex, and declassified them. Once again, I released the prior FBI's own documents and exposed the truth. The same media is calling me a liar again. Maybe this FBI will release more documents directly from FBI headquarters so we can see who is lying. Wouldn't want to deprive the fake news or more bogus Pulitzers. And then ... Now, I find this statement fascinating because, first of all, Kash Patel, and this is on his FBI director Kash Patel's official social media account that this statement was put out. Director Patel has been incredibly reserved in his public statements since he was sworn in as the FBI director. The recent revelation and the reaction by the media and the left to try to downplay it clearly brought Kash Patel to the point where he said, that's it, I'm going to make a statement and I'm going to say something about this. And there is a suggestion here that there's way more to come.
Yeah, and I mean, this made me mad as well. And I did watch some of the Sunday programs, and they led with, they didn't lead with this. They certainly didn't lead with this. I'm quite certain they didn't even talk about it. I was sort of switching back and forth.
Yeah, I don't think they did much. They led with, they're trying to create a new scandal over the firing of the Department of Labor Bureau.
Oh, of course. Yeah, which is the
Bureau
most
of Labor
boring.
Statistics.
Yeah, I mean, nobody cares. And then also, and the Epstein. It was so interesting watching the programs how on one of the panels they asked a question about this, and he immediately, it's that sort of block and bridge tactic people use where
Jeffrey Epstein.
he brought it back around to Jeffrey Epstein. Even Shannon Bream was like, wait, well, that was quite a pivot. It had nothing to do with the question. So they are, the media is not, I mean, that is, that's one of their powers, is not covering something. And for Americans who rely on this kind of media, on the mainstream media, this is a major frustration for people like you and me and others who followed this story, and it just doesn't get the oxygen it deserves.
Well, it's because the New York Times attempted to downplay all of this. They took to the press on Friday, and they put out what they consider to be a debunking of the story of the declassification of these documents. We've got a counter debunk for you coming up in a moment from our friend Sean Davis at the Federalist. I'll read that to you. And also Jack Smith, remember him, special counsel? Well, he's now under investigation for his behavior in investigating Donald Trump. We'll share that information with you coming up in a moment. It's 5:44.
WMAL, more than just politics, because laughter is the best medicine. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
One of the big revelations of the declassification of the Durham Annex, they're calling it. This was an annex of classified information that accompanied the special investigator Mr. Durham's report that Chuck Grassley declassified last week as the head of the Senate Intelligence or Judiciary Committee, excuse me. One of the big revelations was an email chain back and forth between Debbie Wasserman Schultz and a person who worked for the Soros Open Society Foundation, where they were saying, listen, we're going to come up with this whole plan to tie Trump to the Russian mafia to distract from Hillary's email scandal. And everyone's denying that those emails were genuine. They're saying, oh, those get this, Julie, those emails were fabricated by the Russians.
Of course.
Yes, those aren't real. Those are Russians. And the New York Times took to print and said exactly that. Oh, no, that was just that's a fraud. That was all made up. The Russians fabricated those emails. Well, that's not what the Durham Annex says at all. Sean Davis broke this down. It says that the Durham Annex never states at all that the specific intelligence was fabricated. It says the opposite, that his office was never able to determine definitively whether the Clinton campaign plan was entirely genuine, partially true, a composite pulled from multiple sources, exaggerated in certain respects, or fabricated in its entirety. But let's pause there for a minute. Set aside the fact that the Durham Annex never says one way or the other whether these emails are genuine or not. We know for a fact that that's what they did.
Right, exactly.
So whether there was an email ahead of time saying, hey, we're going to do this plan to link Trump to the Russians to distract from the email.
That's right, an email with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That's the key to it, right? We already know she did this.
They did it. They did it. Everybody knows that. But furthermore, John Brennan took the intelligence. They got this, by the way, from Russian intel. So RCIA got these emails. So John Brennan knew about them, and he briefed Obama about it. We know that. James Comey went under oath and cited the Clinton plan intelligence as one of the major reasons he chose to usurp Loretta Lynch and declare that the government wouldn't charge Hillary Clinton on her emails. This is all from Sean Davis's investigation. FBI General Counsel James Baker said he was greatly concerned about the intel. Again, the New York Times is trying to run interference on this story because they're part of it. You see, understand, for the New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN and MSNBC and all the broadcast networks to suddenly tell you the truth about the Russiagate hoax, part of that story would have to be, oh, and by the way, we were getting all this anonymous information leaked to us, and we published it and won awards with it because we told you it was true and none of it was. And they can't do that.
No, they can't do it. And what's so fascinating about this, too, is I was reading this weekend, too. It had a lot to do with the reason Obama was like, no, we need new intelligence, right? This thing saying there was no connection, we need new intelligence, was because he was really, I think people forget about Hillary's email scandal and what a huge deal that was. And what they did is they were desperate to memory hole it, and they talk about how Obama was really worried that her email scandals, this is the servers in the basement and classified information being on these. He was really worried about that affecting his legacy. So he this is the narcissist that he is. He put this country through years of really trauma and cost billions of dollars in all these investigations and really derailed Trump's first. And it was all because his legacy. His legacy. Right. It was so personal to him. Yeah. It's amazing.
Another development over the weekend, it's been revealed that Jack Smith, special counsel who was looking into the so-called January 6 crimes of Donald Trump and the classified document story out of Mar-a-Lago, that he is now being investigated by the Office of Special Counsel for apparent violations of the Hatch Act. Of course, the Hatch Act keeps you from engaging in political activities while a government official. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas took to the X platform and commented on this, said they were the actions of a political actor masquerading as a public official. That's why I've asked this unprecedented interference in the 2024 election to be immediately investigated by the Office of Special Counsel. So we'll see what happens there. Also, the Oversight Project, an independent entity out of the Heritage Foundation, has now referred Christopher Wray to the DOJ. Now, the DOJ has to take it up, of course, but any private organization can do this. But the referral has to do with Christopher Wray's apparently perjurious testimony before Congress about activities with the anti-Catholic bias down in Richmond and the investigations into Catholics, as well as some other incidents with Christopher Wray. So we'll see where that goes. And finally, And by the way, all of these issues we will bring up with Joe DeGeneva at 7:05. But this one may have flown under the radar for a lot of people, but pay close attention. The very first U.S. attorney nominated by Donald Trump has now been confirmed in Miami. He is a Donald Trump appointee for U.S. attorney in Miami. And he's been confirmed through the Senate. Why is that important, Julie? Well, that happens to be the same jurisdiction as Mar-a-Lago and Palm Beach. That means if there is going to be any grand jury
Jack
and panel.
Smith is sweating.
And so are a lot of other people,
Yeah,
like
other
John
people.
Brennan and James Comey and James Clapper and maybe even a former president. It's 5:54.